Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Then Jesus and his disciples arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. As he stepped out on land, the man of the city who had demons met him. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he did not live in a house but in tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside, a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When the swineherds saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened. And when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Christ. This week we had a long gospel. In this week's gospel, we hear about demons and possession. Now, for many of us, these are things that we would dismiss as fiction. But before we dismiss the weight of demonic possession in this text, I'd urge you to consider that the reason that people tell stories is to share wisdom and deep truths about life, about humanity and ethics and even faith. The story of deliverance carries with it truths about identity and restoration and community. In the story before our text this week, Jesus sets sail with the disciples as they find themselves caught in a storm. After Jesus was able to calm the storm, the disciples asked, "Who is this that even the wind and the waves obey him?" Then Jesus steps into a new kind of storm, the spiritual and social whirlwind, tormenting an unnamed person. Many refer to him as the Gerasene demoniac. Jesus has crossed over dangerous waters to find and heal this man. When Jesus arrives, the tormented man comes to meet him. The demons recognize Jesus and seem to be expecting or even dreading his visit. In verse 28, they cry out and fall down, shouting, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." Now, while we're examining the story, it can be easy to think of this situation as a metaphor for mental illness or trauma. But possession is not always a healthy representation of mental illness. Healing for many of us with mental illnesses or trauma doesn't usually happen instantly. And the connection between demons and evil is often an unhealthy way to understand your own mind. Healing from mental illness comes through time, community, and journey and a journey of care with the help of mental health professionals. Demons, or spirits similar to them, are mentioned in many religions around the world, and in many cultures they are still taken quite seriously. In Christianity, demons are always shown to obey the powers that are higher than their own. But in this scene, the demons are recognizing not just who Jesus is, but that Jesus has immense power over them. For as much pain, misery, and torment as these demons have unleashed, they must still fear and obey the power of God. When we meet the demoniac in this reading, his true self is entirely lost. He is literally living among the dead in the tombs. He is chained up, and although the demons give him superhuman strength to break through his physical chains, his dignity is still trapped behind spiritual chains. He is not able to maintain connection with his community and often runs into the wilderness where there is danger and despair. Jesus crossed stormy waters just to meet him. And when he was delivered, the tormented man was able to be his whole and true self, free to return to community, free to make choices in his life. Unfortunately, even after healing, he is still called the man who had demons. Maybe this was to protect his dignity and his identity, but what if this is meant to push us to think about our own lives? How often do we define people by their worst moments? How often might we treat ourselves that way? How is this text calling us to see each other's dignity as something innate rather than something that is earned? Compassion calls us to restore each other to our identity as beloved children of God, to embrace and care for one another in ways that allow us to live as our truest selves. The story shows us a very real and interesting reaction from the crowds. From the community that the once tormented man will return to. They saw a miracle that had taken place, but they were afraid. They were not celebrating. The reality for this community is that their pigs had been killed. The loss of pigs meant the loss of livelihood for many farmers in their community. They would have been shocked and grieving and confused. God's movement in the world has a tendency to disrupt our lives. As any movement towards freedom shows us, when we bring change, the reaction is not always joy and celebration. Change disrupts things in ways that can be painful. We are all currently experiencing a global shift. And as we see the world changing around us, some are fearful, some are hopeful. But both hope and fear are real and valid reactions to change. It seems that our text this week is calling us to hold each other in compassion, whatever our reaction to the shift in our world is. The deliverance in this gospel is not just a spiritual deliverance. It affected the mind and the body of the tormented man, leading to rest and dignity. Even beyond the healing of this individual, a re-entry into community happens. Jesus sends him home. While he may be internally healed, the power of community, of acceptance, seems to be the final step in this person's healing. Healing isn't just what happens to us, but what happens through us in community. It doesn't only heal you, but the people around you are made more whole. By simply being our whole and true selves together, we give each other permission to break through the chains that hold us back. We give each other hope for future healing. By upholding the dignity of one person, we are reminded of our own dignity. At the end of this healing, the ex-demoniac wants to follow Jesus. But Jesus says, "No, go back. Go and tell your story." This deliverance wasn't only about setting this one tormented person free. It was about sharing the truth of who Jesus is and what God can do in, with, and through us. We're not only called to be healed, but to become witnesses of hope, especially for those still living among the tombs. Amen.